Welcome to Young Money with Tracy Bissett, the advice show for young millionaires in the making. It's time for some $1 Million Straight Talk with Tracy, President and Chief Financial Fitness Trainer at Bissett Financial Fitness. Each week, Tracy's going to tell you what you need to know now at the beginning of your earning curve. Basic and advanced financial concepts made clear, healthy money habits and the missteps to avoid, and all the stuff that you can do to set yourself up for a future of fantastic financial freedom. Ready to lace up and start this week's financial fitness training? Let's do it, Tracy.
Welcome to the Young Money Podcast. I'm really excited today. We have such a special guest, Stacey Ann Berry. Welcome to the show, Stacey.
Thank you for having me, Tracy. I really appreciate being on your show.
Oh, it's fantastic. So Stacey is an innovative entrepreneur, published author, and highly sought after speaker. An experienced virtual presenter, she was a guest speaker for SheEO World's online learning lab and hosts interactive workshops as the CEO of Bstellar Consulting Group. Stacey is an influential and service-driven leader who is passionate about community development and advocacy. Some of her community involvement includes volunteering for the 29th Annual Turkish Conference on U.S. Relations for the American Turkish Council and Housing Up's Adopt an Apartment program in Washington, D.C. She currently serves on the Board of Health with the City of Toronto. Stacey is the recipient of the Outstanding Contribution to Student Experience Award from York University and was recognized as one of the 100 accomplished Black Canadian women. She has a master's degree in public policy administration and law, as well as an honors degree in history and law and society from York University. So welcome again, Stacey.
Thank you.
I'd love it if you can start by sharing with the listeners what you do today and really how your company came to be.
Certainly. So, today I'm an entrepreneur part-time. I do have a full-time day job, but, I'm always working on my business as much as I can and trying to come up with ways to remain relevant. So some of the ways I do that is through my blog site that I have on Bstellar.com, where I share success tips for entrepreneurs on the importance of applying empathy marketing or how you can strengthen your public speaking skills. So being an entrepreneur wasn't my first career choice. It wasn't even my second or third. Originally, I wanted to be a lawyer, and that's something I wanted to do since elementary. And when the opportunity came to apply, I did after preparing really hard for this opportunity, but I did not get accepted to law school. So after not getting accepted to law school, I had to do a good self-assessment to figure out, well, what else should I do with my life? Because that was the main thing I wanted to do. I also was considering teaching. So when I did my undergrad, I did a double major, so history and law and society. So at one point I was preparing for teachers college and law school at the same time, but I was more passionate about law. So I did not apply to teachers college. So when I applied to law school, didn't get in, I wasn't sure what to do. So I decided to do an internship in Washington, D.C., which I did. And that's where I got a lot of experience with working for nonprofits in Washington, D.C. as a volunteer, but also a community development organization called Local Initiative Support Corporation. So after doing that experience, it really sparked the interest of public policy and all the opportunities that exist. So when I came back to Canada, I decided to get my master's in public policy, but that journey itself wasn't easy because I applied to the master's program twice and got rejected. And then I tried at another school and surprisingly got in. So once I got in, I was working a full-time job at the time, pursuing school part-time and doing that. So after completing my master's, I was actually working for the government. And then in 2013, I got laid off. So after getting laid off, what do I do with my life? I get at these places often. And after doing that, there was a program through the provincial government that allowed people who were on EI, I went through EI, to start a business. It was a self-employment entrepreneurship program, which unfortunately is discontinued. So through that program, I decided to come up with a business concept that was approved. Once it was approved, I went through this program to get really hands-on experience on how to start a business. So I say I'm an accidental entrepreneur because I was just in a situation where even though I had a master's and great work experience, I couldn't find a job. I was sending out hundreds of resumes, but I always believe in creating your own opportunities and not just folding your hands and giving up. So I decided to basically make an assessment of my own skills and talents and created a company that would allow me to monetize those skills. So in my company, I do workshops on soft skills. I put on my teacher hat, and I was also teaching at Seneca College. So I design workshops and facilitate. So that's kind of how I landed into this business. And then after doing it for a while, I really fell in love with it and being an entrepreneur and just continue to be an entrepreneur.
I think that's wonderful how you've shared your recap. I love the perspective that you have on it around creating your own opportunities, because certainly over the years, things didn't go the way that you wanted.
Right.
Not getting into law school, that's also something that happened to me. That was what I wanted to do. And I was trying to pursue a combined law and master's in business. But that wasn't the path. So not the path. Losing your job, being put in a position now where you've got to figure out again, what am I going to do? And then pursuing this entrepreneurship thing, which is really kind of your third, fourth choice, I would say, based on everything you told us. So I think that it's really clear that you're extremely resilient, extremely positive, very hopeful. And as you coined it, an accidental entrepreneur. So very well done. Certainly making the best of the situation and continuing to persevere.
Yeah, and that's what we all have to do, because, we never know when we can suffer a loss, whether it's a loss of a loved one, loss of a job, and how that could set you back,
Stacey, I'd love for you to share one of your poems, the one that you use and that you created to define what your company name means.
Certainly. The poem is called Bstellar, and it goes as follows. Be your best self. Strive for excellence. Take time to preserve your health. Empower others by expressing love and faith. Learn from past mistakes. Live your life with purpose and passion. Aspire to reach your dreams without hesitation. Recognize the power of resilience and dedication. So in all that you do, be stellar, and you will ignite greatness inside of you.
And so you mentioned a little bit about what your company does. Maybe you could give us a couple more examples of things that you do.
Well, some of the other things I do is around, community development / project management. So one of my biggest clients was a nonprofit organization that I'm still involved with, and they were able to get some funding to hire me to fine-tune their breast cancer awareness campaign. And so my responsibilities was to essentially help them fine-tune their community outreach, their grassroots marketing, really helping them get on local TV and radio, and then overseeing about 10 students who most were science students wanting to go into nursing or even medicine. And they were looking for an organization that focused on scientific research for women of color, specifically African Canadian women, as it pertains to cancer. So a lot of these students were eager and excited to be involved with this organization because it's fairly unique in Canada. They've been around for 16 years, called the Olive Branch of Hope. And so I was able to help them raise their profile and create essentially templates that they're still using now for their workshops. So they do these free educational workshops where some of the topics that they cover is understanding cancer as a disease. They have medical experts within Canada's hospitals that come in and teach you about the scientific and medical side, but then also nutritionists that teaches us the type of foods we should eat more of, what we should avoid, even some of the products we put on our skin as women. Some of us wear makeup, and being more aware of some of the harsh chemicals that exist in some makeup lines. And then we'd usually open the workshop with a physical activity, whether it's Zumba or Soca-Size or something fun to emphasize the importance of being physically active. And so we essentially hosted these workshops for free to the community across the GTA. So Peel was covered, Durham was covered, and of course the Greater Toronto area.
Well, that sounds amazing. And it sounds like you've made a significantly positive impact on all of those people who are able to attend.
Yeah, I actually still mentor a lot of the students. They reach out to me for career advice. So they're kind of in between grad school, getting into med school. Sometimes they need tips on job search. So I do stay in touch with them that way. I'm still in touch with the organization. I give back my time and help out with their charity gala every year. And even my book that I've released recently, 10% of my annual proceeds will be donated to them.
Well, that's wonderful. Now we've talked a little bit about your background, and I pointed out some of the highlights. I'd love it if you can share really briefly what you consider to be some of your success principles that have been a theme throughout your life.
Yeah, some of my success principles, there are 3 that I'll share. The first one would be persistency. It's so important to follow up. Whether you're trying to get a job or you are trying to connect with someone in an industry or a potential client, especially if you meet them at a networking event, it's good to just take that initiative and follow up. One of the things I learned with being persistent is that even in my job search site, it's a hidden job market. So I mentioned that I had the opportunity to teach at Seneca College, which wasn't an opportunity that was advertised online anywhere. I literally cold called different colleges, sent emails to different departments, and just introduced myself, then asked to do a phone interview. And the one person that responded seemed impressed with what I was offering and then asked me to come in for an interview. So in doing so, and after she met me and I showed her one of the courses that I designed that I was teaching through my business, she decided to hire me on the spot. And then I was teaching at the continuing education department. So,
That's excellent.
So persistency for me has worked in almost every job that I've held, just constantly following up with people. A second success tip is preparation. So you've probably heard the saying, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, which means staying in preparation mode. So even if you're out of work or your business is not making the money that it needs to at this time, still invest in your skills, go to conferences, be open, take webinars. If your budget is too tight, look for free webinars. There's a lot of great ones that exist out there, and just constantly be open to learning, because you never know when an opportunity will present itself. And there's a saying that goes, success is when preparation meets opportunities. So if you're not prepared and an opportunity presents itself, you may miss out on something really great. My third tip is nurturing relationships. And this is a value actually that I learned from my late mother, who was just amazing at maintaining relationships that lasted decades. She was very good at just, staying in touch. It's never about what's in it for me, but how can I help others? How can I be of service to others and add value to other people's lives? And so that's something she imparted in me that I'm still very big on, just checking in on friends of mine, just to see how people are doing, sending an update email to people in my professional networks, letting them know what I've been up to, finding out what they've been up to. And these are things that, can go a long way, and it helps you to maintain lasting relationships. So it's always important to just sometimes give with no expectation. And, be resourceful to others, because, over this period and just nurturing these relationships, sometimes great friendships, will evolve as well.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And certainly I love those success principles that you share. When you look around and you're looking at people who've accomplished a lot in their lifetimes, whether it's somebody in their career, someone through their business, could be a celebrity or just somebody who's not famous, being persistent, being prepared, and nurturing relationships are all really key to doing great things, but they all require consistent effort, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
And so I love what you talked about around nurturing the relationships. So giving without any expectation. When you're willing to do something for somebody else without wanting something in return or wanting something first, I think that really allows that person to get to know you better and allows them to develop a bond that will be stronger. And then in the future, you never know where it will lead. As you said, could be friendship, could be to opportunities for your company, it could be for a career opportunity. So it's really interesting. I think the world gives you back what you're putting out to it. So I think that's a great philosophy.
It certainly does.
Now, if we shift gears a little bit, what would you say has been your biggest turning point or revelation from a financial perspective?
So, my biggest turning point would have been the importance of, I would say, life insurance. Growing up, I've been very good at managing money because I started working at 13, whether it's babysitting, selling newspapers, I would find anything because I was determined to graduate from university debt-free, which I did.
Which is a tremendous accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And so what I wish I understood better was how to effectively use life insurance, or what are some of the benefits on a life insurance that had an investment portion. So say I got that in my teens, I could have been able to invest it enough to pay for my university, for example. And then the money that I used to pay for my university could have been used to buy an investment property at an earlier age, like those type of things, so that was kind of a revelation for me looking back in hindsight, where I was like, I wish I knew this earlier, even understanding the stock market earlier and how to invest in those things. I played things safe. So I did understand, GICs and the safe things, but, having a better understanding of the riskier things would have helped me a lot. So those would be some of my financial turning points.
Well, that's great. And we've recently had Deborah Williams on the show, and she's been kind of giving us the basics or the 101, if you will, all around insurance products.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's a lot of other listeners out there who wish they had known that or would be happy to know that at a younger age. And so I appreciate you sharing your personal story and reflections on that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, I know that you're a huge give back individual in the community. You're always looking for ways to be of service to others. And I thought that it would be wonderful if you could share with the listeners a little bit more about what community service means to you,
Mm-hmm.
why you think it's important, and when you think about it, what are the pillars of it that frame it in your mind?
Certainly. So for me, community service I see as an extension of who I am or who I was raised to be, because I was raised in a home where my parents were, they immigrated from Jamaica, but they were always, even though they came with very little, it doesn't matter who from where they came from called and needed something. They couldn't say no, even if they wanted to. They would stretch the little they have, whether it's to help people pay for their children's school, providing food, so there was always a sense of you're not in this world by yourself. It's not just about you. You have to help others along. So that is definitely something that became a part of who I am. So even when I was looking, for a job, I always still found myself committed to volunteering, giving back, helping out with some initiative of some sort for most of my life, as far as I can remember. Another thing I used to do was these workshops at high schools with a nonprofit that I was a volunteer for. And some of the topics we covered were anti-bullying and leadership, image and beauty, where we talked to a lot of these youth in underserved communities to help them build self-esteem and help them find greater purpose. So I find with community service, you're really adding values. You're building a legacy, and you're just living a life that feels very purposeful and meaningful. And so that's
I was going to say, when you said that around building your legacy, certainly you are helping others when you're being of service, but I know from all of the volunteer activities I've undertaken that the rewards you get is really priceless. You can't put a price on the joy in knowing that you helped somebody, or you were able to help them learn something, see something from a new perspective, or just give them a hand up to be able to go on and do some other things.
And the empowerment part of it, just seeing others just kind of excel to another level because of something you said, or, a way of motivating people. And then when you see them giving back, it's just really a wonderful thing. So in terms of pillars of community service, so I did come up with a workshop around how to build an advocacy and awareness campaign many years ago. And in doing that, I came up with what are some of the key pillars of community service. And the top three that I would share with the listeners are the importance of researching. So if you're advocating on an issue, do take the time, because it is helpful for those you're serving who are impacted by the issue, whether it's something as critical and sad as cancer, or, the Ebola virus, which was something I was involved in. You want to research the issue and the community so that you just have a greater knowledge of how to better advocate, looking for what the gaps could be. It's also important to be dedicated to the cause and show that consistency, because some of these things are life and death. If you don't want to just start research on something and then just fold in without a solution or without seeing how it could impact or save the life of somebody. So for example, with the Olive Branch, they're diligently working on coming up with a cancer drug that's designed to the genetic makeup of women of African ancestry. So the researcher for the organization, Dr. Juliet Daniels, who's based in McMaster University, she and her team is really dedicated to that. And you can tell they're not going to give up until they find it. And she too is a cancer survivor. So there's a personal connection. And then I find when you're dedicated, it will just spark almost a movement and inspire others to join your cause and to get involved.
Have you noticed, before you go into your third one, have you noticed that sometimes people get really enthusiastic at the beginning when they start volunteering, and then that may peter out if they don't see progress being made immediately?
Yeah, I've noticed that. People sometimes do run out of patience, and they kind of want or expect immediate results, or it could be an issue that has been taking so long and they don't understand why there isn't a solution. And so, yeah, I've seen that. And it is a challenge sometimes to continuously keep volunteers engaged and enthusiastic, but you have to just keep pushing. And sometimes it's a matter of revisiting your volunteer base and engaging new people with fresh ideas, right? Because that's just something that happens within the nonprofit sector. It's hard to find people who will stay in it for the long haul.
Yeah, unless they're truly, I guess, connected to the cause or the reason that they're doing it.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, being tenacious, just having that determination to, not give up, not give in, to find a solution. And so I find when you're doing community work, those things are really, really essential.
Well, I think those are tremendous. And it certainly gives people an idea of what they should be focusing on when they're going to get involved. So as you mentioned, researching, knowing that issue, being dedicated, putting in the time. I know when we've talked previously, you've really talked about being able to commit until you reach a certain result.
Right.
So that you could kind of pre-identify, I want to stay in until we hit X fundraising goal, or we hold these 2 events or whatever it may be. And certainly use the power of tenacity for a good reason. I mean, there's lots of other reasons you could use it for, but certainly for positive stuff is tremendous.
Of course, certainly.
So Stacey, when the listeners are thinking about why they would want to give back, certainly with you, it was very much a part of your upbringing. You would have been able to witness it in your family. I mean, from the moment you could hear or see, that would have been so part of your values. And so it was ingrained in you. If you were thinking about the listeners and why else it's important to give back, what would you say to them might be some reasons they may consider it?
Well, I'm hoping your listeners would consider that, giving back is a good way to add value and meaning to your life. It's also just a good way to utilize your skills. There's so many issues, even on a global scale or just right here in Canada, that is in need of, people who want to make a difference, because the issues are massive. I mean, our government tries to do what they can. But when we think about the environmental challenges we're facing, whether it's climate change or labor practices that are abusive with how people are being used to produce some of the goods and services that we use. There's child labor still happening in different countries. Like the issues are so many. So I feel, find something you're interested in or passionate about and just roll your sleeves up and get involved. You're going to learn a lot and just find meaning and purpose. And then you'll be a part of creating the kind of world that we want to leave for future generations. If you have kids or grandkids, I mean, we do hope that they come into a world that's better than what we're experiencing. So I think it's just for the greater good of humanity to really be committed to community service and giving back.
I think that's great. And certainly people should be mindful of their schedules so they're not overcommitted and they can continue to fulfill their obligations once they do find that right thing that they're passionate about or interested in. Because certainly there's no better feeling than when you give back and you're able to see how you make an impact too. Even if it's a small one, but it does change what's happening in the world.
Right, it does. And I mean, and there's also financial contributions that people can make, right? So if you're someone who's, a high you have a very busy schedule, then there's ways where you can donate financially to causes that you care about. And there's a lot of people who do that, right? So it's just a matter of getting, more people to do more good.
Absolutely. And I've heard it coined before, always consider your time, your talent, and your treasures. So at some points in your life, you're going to have more time. And so you can give more of that. Right. At some points, you're going to be able to offer up some special talents that you have. So perhaps if you're an accountant, maybe you're going to be the treasurer on a board or something like that. And then at some points, maybe even throughout your whole life, you may be offering up your treasures, maybe a smaller amount when you're in your younger years, but certainly when you're in your later stages of your career, your business, as you've earned some more income, you may be able to donate more of your treasures.
Yeah, so I love that. I love that model. That's
about
awesome.
The 3 resources. Yeah, because everybody has something to offer. And it's sometimes people only think about the financial and they're not thinking about the other things that they can offer.
Oh, yeah. We're so multi-talented. There's a lot we can offer.
So I'd love, before I let you go, if you can let us know what you're working on now, Stacey.
So I am working on getting my first book to the marketplace. It's recently was on Amazon. It's called Deeper Reflections of Life, Words to Inspire the Heart and Uplift the Soul. It's a book that I dedicated to my mom who passed away, who was very instrumental in helping hundreds of kids improve, their skills in academics. She was a tutor and ran a tutoring business. And so in July of this year, I had my first book launch, which I also did in memory of her. It was a beautiful celebration. And on my website, I do have, at staceyannberry.com, I have a highlight of this event. So I'm working on just doing a couple of speaking engagements, book tours. I plan to do some in the new year, 2019. And my Instagram, my Twitter is the best way to kind of stay in touch, see what I'm up to. On my book page, I share quotes of inspiration, excerpts from my book, and sometimes videos. Since it's poetry, I do a couple, spoken word style poetry. And that's what I have going on.
Well, congratulations on getting your book out there. I'm sure it must have been tough doing it with your mom not being present, but doing it in her memory, I'm sure, is very, very meaningful. And I know she'd probably be so proud of you.
Yes, it was. And a lot of her very close friends who are like aunties to me were there. Her students were there, their parents. So it was just a really joyous occasion. Everyone just said they left feeling so uplifted, so inspired.
Oh, that's really tremendous. And that'll be a special moment you carry with you for the rest of your days, certainly.
Of course.
And so you've mentioned your social media where people can go and find you. I know that they can check out some of your videos. You have some great articles as well.
I do on my blog.
Your website.
So bstellar.com. I have a success tips blog where I share tips for entrepreneurs. If you want to strengthen your public speaking skills, that's one of my latest articles. Even the importance of empathy marketing, which is something I wrote about. Team building is also another important topic. And then on my Instagram, I have two. So one for my book, Deeper Reflections of Life, and then one for my company at Bstellar Group, which is also the same for Twitter.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that I'm taking away a lot of special things from our talk together. I love how you so freely shared the stories of your life, your childhood, and the different things that have been going on. Your success principles will really put anyone in good stead who's really taking them to heart. I love how proud you are of the fact that you graduated debt-free. I think that's amazing, and certainly should be aspirational for many of the listeners who are out there. And I really appreciate the perspectives that you shared all around community service, that giving of yourself with no expectation, and the way that you framed the discussion around knowing the issue, dedication, and using the power of tenacity for a good reason. I think that giving back is something that sometimes can be overlooked. And so I really appreciate the insights that you've shared. And I'm hopeful, and I expect that it will inspire a lot of the listeners who are tuning in to check out your interview. So thank you again.
And thank you so much for the opportunity, Tracy. Really appreciate it.
You are welcome. So there you have it, listeners. Stacey Berry, all with her thoughts on community giving and her financial challenges over the years. Until next time, take good care and stay financially fit.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. To all you millionaires in the making out there, if you love this podcast, please subscribe on iTunes to keep your financial fitness training going. Oh, and leave us a review. And be sure to visit 2 S's, 2 T's, financialfitness.com to take your free financial fitness assessment. Find out how financially fit you really are. See you next week, young millionaires to be.